Hello, everybody. Welcome to the last e-commerce explored webinar before the summer. Yes, we are going to be taking a little teeny tiny break over the summer to do some upgrades on the system, which probably will mean nothing to you guys, probably won't make any impact to your lives at all, but it is going to make my life a bit easier, and I think it's going to make these more powerful in a way you won't even realize. So we are here today to discuss conversion rates. And as many of you regular viewers know, I've been playing around this year with topics to see which topics you guys like. And I've been blown away by the number of you who are into learning about conversion rates. If I overthink it, I think, well, obviously you were going to be into this one. But sometimes I'm like, well, but you weren't into some of the other ones, I thought. So really awesome to have so many of you signing up to catch the live and the replay version of this. I suspect it's going to be super popular in replay too, so great to have you tuning in. This is an episode I am truly pleased to be doing, because I think many of you will have heard me talk before about how we are in a place where marketers need to do a better job, where we all need to get more tuned in with listening to our customers, which means it's less about buying huge amounts of traffic from Facebook ads, and it's becoming much more about customer journeys and customer experience, which of course means or can be measured by how we improve our conversion rates as one of the options. So we will be getting deep into conversion rates today, but taking a bit of a different approach to it, as you'll discover when we meet our panelists, of which we've got 5 today, 5 whole panelists, biggest one ever, all from very, very different spaces. As you'll discover when we meet them, there are a lot of ways that might not automatically feel like conversion rate optimization, which are conversion rate optimization. So we're taking a really big, wide view of it today. I would love to find out what you want to know about conversion rates as we go through this. So please do add that in the comments as we go. Add your questions early, because we are highly likely to run out of time to answer your questions. So the sooner you get your questions in, the sooner you will get them answered, the more likely they are to be answered. Right now in the comments, I would love to know where you're tuning in from. A, so as I know the comments section is working, but B, so I know where you're tuning in from, because right now we have panelists joining us from Australia, India, the Canary Islands, and the UK. So the panel are all across the globe. So I would love to know where you guys are as well. There should be a box just to that side of your screen that enables you to send me a little message so I can see where you're at. There we go. They're coming. We've got Indonesia, London, more Edward's back again. I think Edward's on a full house of these. Cardiff, that's UK, Buffalo, New York, we've got Madrid. See, this is properly international today. I was looking at where everyone signed up from. We're definitely going. Oh, we got Canada, Australia. One of that. This is Peter, who you guys are going to meet in a moment. Peter has stayed up till 1 a.m. to be a panelist on this webinar. That's how important this topic is. But anyway, I'm running the risk of getting overly excited by your comments and not actually getting this webinar underway. So what else do I need to tell you? Before we get started, this is only possible due to the support of our marvellous sponsors, DoFinder and Lime Chat. You're going to be meeting Anna from DoFinder and Nikhil from Lime Chat very shortly. So you'll find a bit more about them then, but it's brilliant to be working with them on this and some of our other webinars too, because without them we wouldn't be producing it and you wouldn't get all the goodness. And as I said earlier, where you've all been adding where you're tuning in from, please do also add your questions as we go about conversion rate optimization, because we want to answer your questions as much as we want to answer mine. So who are the lovely panelists that are going to be joining us very shortly? They're current. I can see them all looking nervous underneath my screen, going, "Am I on yet? Am I on yet?" Not quite, guys. Very, very nearly. So we got Peter Gardner from Ecom Collab Club, who's the guy who's tuning in from us, who's joining us from Australia. We've got Anna from DoFinder, as already mentioned. We've got Nikhil from Lime Chat, Joanna from User Testing, Luke from Luke Carthy, and we've got me, which those of you who know any of these people, you will know they have wildly different aspects. If we were going pure CRO, we'd probably just have Joe, Luke, and Peter here. But because we're going with a much wider view of how you improve, how many people who get to your website go on to buy, we've also got DoFinder and Lime Chat. So Anna and Nikhil here to cover some alternative ways, or some more not intelligent, Chloe, some more wider thinking ways of improving those conversion rates. So that's definitely enough of me alone for now. Let's bring up our brilliant set of panelists. I am so pleased to have all of you joining me for this one. So let's let the audience know why I'm so pleased. If you could all tell us a bit more about you, a bit more about the company you work for, and we'll start with Nikhil and then we'll work our way in a clockwise direction. So Nikhil, over to you. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you, Chloe. Well, it's great to tune in. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm Nikhil. I'm one of the founders here at LimeChat. And you might be wondering why I'm wearing this cap. Well, I have a degree in AI and deep tech, and I thought I would just bring in some of those ideas to the table here and how to build a great personalized experience. We've been doing that at LimeChat for quite a while now, working with top brands and mostly focusing on things like automated customer experiences, looking at assistance for the buying funnel, marketing on things like WhatsApp, etc., which helps with customer retention and definitely drives up CRO. So super excited about bringing some of those insights over here. And I couldn't find a doctor's cape, but we'll try to bring in all the knowledge that we have on this experience working with brands to the table tonight.
Love that. Awesome to have you with us as well, Nikhil. Peter, still awake in Australia. Tell us a bit more about yourself and who you're representing today.
Thanks so much, Chloe. I'm Peter. I'm one of the co-founders of a CRO agency called eCommerce. We focus on CRO with the CVO methodology. And then I also co-founded with my business partner from Blend. We also co-founded the Ecom Collab Club, which is a community for e-commerce professionals, brand side, tech side, agency side, where we do in-person events and online community as well. So that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, Peter, I'm going to have to ask, what's CVO?
CVO is customer value optimization. So it's just taking a broader stance on, and I'll probably get into this a little bit more later when I say to you, I feel like CRO is fundamentally flawed in a naming convention because it sounds like we need to focus just on a conversion rate where we don't. We need to focus on everything that drives up your business revenue.
Name and we could be here all afternoon if we try and name all the stupid terms in e-commerce, starting with the word e-commerce. Try and define e-commerce. I have multiple businesses with that word in the title. What an error. Anyway, before I go off on that rant, Anna, please tell us a bit more about yourself and what you get up to at DoFinder.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So I'm Anna. I'm head of content at DoFinder, and what we do is basically we are a search and discovery solution. So bringing a little bit of a different approach here to CRO. So we will see how we can optimize conversions just from search and discovery. So what we do is we help our customers to bring the products right in front of their own customers. So hopefully giving them a good experience.
Yeah, exactly. Love it. Luke?
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are listening from. I am Luke Carthy. I work for myself, and I effectively am just an e-commerce consultant. I say just. What does that mean? I just fix e-commerce problems that people throw at me, and a lot of that falls into the world of GA4, which is a swear word in the industry that makes people sweat. That to one side, SEO, and of course, optimizing conversion. Big fan of Peter's, actually, the Ecom Collab Club. I've been to a couple of times, and it's an absolute riot. It's a lot of fun. So, but yes, on topic, ecom, conversion, GA4, more sales, tech. You just stick me in the middle, and I make things work. That's the plan, anyway. So that's me.
Excellent. And Joe, last but definitely not least, from user testing, tell us a bit more about yourself and user testing, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. Great to be here. I'm Joe. I'm a senior solutions consultant at User Testing. We're the leading on-demand human insight platform. So what User Testing does is we bring human insight earlier into decisions so teams can build better experiences on a video-based approach. And I get to work with lots of different teams across different industries who do this all the time, including CRO teams. So excited to bring some of those examples to the conversation today.
Me too. And I have to say, I was I think I've talked to people about user testing. I think you've got to mention in one of my books, like, so for the last 10 years or something, about how everyone should use user testing. And it's like, I've got a user testing person on a webinar. So cool. Anyone who knows will know I'm weirdly geeky about things like this occasionally. Right. Anyway, Joe, it's very, very lovely to have you here and great to have your perspective on all this too. So, I like to kick things off with these by challenging you with a couple of statements or a couple of complete the sentences to get the discussion going. This is going to be the first one. My favorite way to improve conversion rates is, I will come to you all for your answers in a moment, but audience, this isn't just about me asking the panelists questions. So if you've got a question you would like to know, maybe one of their intros has sparked a thought, maybe there's something you want more detail on, maybe there's a problem you want help solving, please do add that in the chat, which is over there off the side of the video, and we will do our best to get those answered. And as I said earlier, ask early if you want to get it answered, because the sooner you ask, the sooner I can ask it of the panelists. And also the panelists are likely to be active in the chat as well. So it's definitely worth getting those questions into us. Okay, my favorite way to improve conversion rates is, Anna, can I come to you first on this one?
Yeah, of course. Probably it's going to be like the most different approach. So I don't know if it's great to start with, but we will go for it anyway. So I feel, to me, the most important thing is to bring products right in front of the customers. And it may seem obvious, but we tend to focus on sales. But sales is just the end of the process. What happens before, in my opinion, is what's really important to optimize. So yeah, in my case, I would say just what we do before. So are we making sure the customer is able to find the products they're looking for, to discover even new products? So all of that we can do with the search and with all the analytics that we can have in order to know how the customer is reaching us. And to me, just optimizing this is the best way to actually go.
It's mad we have to say it, isn't it? But
yeah,
actually show the customer something they want to buy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems like obvious, but actually statistics shown that it's not that obvious. Like we have seen that around more than 60% of users actually are not satisfied with the experience that they are receiving. So, I mean, it's not 1%, it's not 2%. So it's a huge amount of people that are likely to buy because they are searching your products, you're on your website, and they're ready to buy. They just cannot find what they're looking for. So yeah, it may seem obvious indeed, but apparently it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Luke, you were laughing along with that one, so I'm going to come to you next. What's yours?
Yeah, it ties in quite nicely to Anna's actually, which is just get the basics right, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like you can't do any of this shiny stuff until you have the fundamentals in. So to use an example, right, you could have the state-of-the-art fridge freezers and everything else in your brand new flagship supermarket. But if you don't have any power, you can't sell anything, right? So I know that sounds like really obvious, but the point is AI, as incredible as it is, not to throw shade to it, and all these kind of personalization and technical models that we have and great features, if you aren't simply doing things like putting products in the right category, making navigation accessible on mobile, then everything else is jeopardized. So have a properly solid foundation first and get everything sorted before you think about doing the advanced stuff. There's honestly so much gold and so many things wrong in the basics. And I'll give you very, very briefly one example is the amount of times I look at clients' GA4s and it's not even tracking properly. Attribution is broken, but they want to go and spend more money on a channel that apparently is driving them cash. If you're not recording properly, if you're not tracking properly, if things are broke, if people can't pay, you aren't going to make any money. It doesn't matter how much money you spend on advanced tech and models and so on, you know?
I love your answer, but I will just add one word of warning, which is I'm going to try not to let us go completely into attribution land today, because we could completely end up talking analytics the whole way through this, and I want to keep us a bit. No, I love it being brought in, but if anyone starts going down that rabbit hole, I am pulling you out. Be warned, everybody. Peter, you work with a lot of brands like Luke does, trying to help them tackle this head on. What's your favourite way at the moment to improve conversion rates?
I'll jump on with what Luke was saying first, but this one isn't my favorite. I fully agree with you in terms of just get the basics right. I sort of preach down the lines of simplify. The amount of times that you'll go to a website and you'll see something that's like overly complex, that's built this new bit of functionality, but your users fundamentally don't know how to use it. And actually just deleting and taking away is way better. But to answer the question directly, my favorite way to improve conversion rates is actually to improve, and I'm going to get really, really specific, your product page copy. Making sure that your product page copy is on point, talking about the benefits, not the features. My favorite framework, and probably the easiest one for anybody to implement, is the PASS framework. So pain, agitate, solution framework. That's probably my favorite go-to on how to improve the conversion rates.
Yeah, so much potential in copy. If I had a bingo card for this session, copy would have been one of those things. When's someone going to mention copy? One of you is typing, which is completely fine, but we can hear it. So next time you're typing, could you please mute yourself? That would be great. Who have we not yet come to? We've not come to Nikhil yet. Nikhil, what's your favourite way to improve conversion rates?
Well, I think everything that people have talked about, keep it to the basics. But I believe there's a more fundamental reason why people make a purchase, and that is trust. And when there's so many people to buy from, you want to buy from someone that not only can you trust their messaging, but that you can trust their products. So building that personal experience, personalized kind of journey with them, and creating that trust is something that's super important. Number one. Number two is the fact that everyone in this day and age has very short attention spans. So coming back to what Peter said, having a great copy, it can't be too verbose, it needs to be to the point. And in fact, we're seeing so much where people don't even want to read the product pages anymore. You look at the pictures and like, there's too many, even if they have like 4 face washes, let's say on a brand website, like, it's so much work I have to figure out between the 4. So can you give them guided experiences to actually figure out what product suits them the best? And I think the day and age of today's buyer is about that personalized experience. Can they get instant responses, instant help in their purchasing? And that helps them build that type of trust. So we talk about definitely of customer acquisition. There are always these on the fence buyers who come on the website, and if they don't know how they're going to make that decision, can you help them kind of lead them to the purchase? They have a lot of different ways of asking for different types of concerns, etc. And if you can help them navigate through that time period, you can actually get them over the fence and make the purchase. And the second aspect to build trust is great customer retention and customer support. So if the customer feels like they can always get back to you, they'll be more willing to try out your product and make that sale. So these two aspects, when put together, it's about the personalization, time to responses, bringing that human level element into the sales process. We talk about the traditional way of buying is brick and mortar. We talked about e-commerce. It's a different way, but I think the humanness to it is still the same. People wanna interact, and they don't want to spend a lot of time in doing it. So keeping it simple, but allowing that kind of personalization to come through.
Yeah, I think trust would definitely have been on my imaginary bingo card as well. Trust has to be in there for how we improve those conversion rates, and I do find it quite fascinating. I feel like we've spent the last 20 years, certainly in my e-commerce journey, trying to get the website to do everything, and now we've gone, we could let chatbots and human beings via chat methods actually help the human through the conversion process, rather than just trying to make the website do it all automatically. Joe, what's your answer to this one?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting hearing everyone's answers, because I definitely agree with them. But I'd probably take that idea of going back to basics one step further. And fundamentally, we need to understand what people who are on our sites really need. Why are they there? What are they intending to do? And how can we make sure that what we're working on is going to actually work for them? For example, we have all of these data points. I won't go into it, but I see a lot of the time there's a reliance on A/B testing, because that's the only way of getting feedback sometimes from users in a way. But a lot of the A/B tests that are being run are based on internal opinions, and often that leads to a bit of a flat line and success after a few weeks. because the ideas aren't actually based on fact, they're based on perception of issues. So we can actually understand and observe people going through our sites, going through those journeys, and actually get direct feedback from them to kind of plug that gap from what we have in the data and understand why it's happening and what they want. Then I feel we're able to then better build and create the experiences, whether that's copy, whether that's the product, that are actually going to meet their needs, and that's going to lead to better conversions.
It's such a full-on approach to get this right for people. I love how you've all kind of come at this from very similar angles, but with such different ways of doing it. So that's super cool. I want to get on to another one of my questions before we possibly go to the audience. We've had a great question from Colleen, which we'll get to in a bit. If anyone else has got questions, please do ping them into us. So this is one I think you've alluded to in your first set of answers, guys, but which I think is increasingly important. It's a bit like if we were doing a webinar on retention, my first thing about retention is recruit the first customers in the first place, recruit the right customers rather in the first place. And I think, I've always been in the marketing box, and the first thing I look on any old school Google Analytics account was to come into it and go straight to the traffic source report and look at how the conversion rates were across the different sources of traffic. So I think there's a huge amount, because this is my sentence, improving conversion rates isn't just about what happens on the website, it's about getting the right customers to the website too. Anna, you kind of touched on that with your first answer, talking about putting the right products in front of the customers. Do you think that marketing piece and who we get to the website is as important as what we do with them when they're there?
It is so important as well, how they are able to find us. Are they bring coming to the website through organic traffic or advertisement, like whatever that is, like it's also so important. And also being able to understand how they got there and like what search terms they were using, for example, is like crucial as well. And there is so much that your currently customers can be telling you about how to get new ones as well, because those users will be using like different similar terms and so on. So yeah, definitely as important to keep those things in mind.
Anyone else got anything to add on this one? Because I suspect none of you are going to disagree. Peter, immediate hand up there. Come on.
Okay, I'm going to go back to what your first comment was on this, saying that this is all about retention, because it is. And you can attract people. If you want to just go ahead and increase your conversion rates, cool, run a sale, attract the people to your sale, use adverts with a sale banner. But what's that going to do for you? You're not going to get any profit off the back of that. Those people aren't coming back to shop with you. So this is where it plays back into what I was saying right in the beginning. Conversion rate optimization is fundamentally flawed in its name. It's customer value optimization, because you don't want that person that's just coming in that's just going to pump up your conversion rate metric. You want to pump up your customer lifetime value metric. So you want to use RFM segmentation. You want to go and see who your best customers are, what their profile is, and attract them to the store, so that you've got the customers that are purchasing, but the ones that are coming back, the ones that are more likely to come back as well.
I love that. And RFM, for anyone who's not heard of it before, it's tried and tested for about 100 years. Recency, frequency, monetary value, the best way of starting your customer segmentation. Very big in the mail order industry. But I could go off on one about RFM. I won't. Nikhil, you're nodding away. So what do you want to add in on this?
Well, I think there's just so much that we don't understand about navigating customers through this buying journey. We talked about two things. First is we talked about getting customers to the website. I would say there's a different angle to this. Is the website the right channel for the customer in the first place? We're seeing so many people who are more comfortable buying directly off places like Instagram, Facebook, even channels like WhatsApp in Asia are insanely user-friendly to make purchases, fundamentally. So you have to understand your customers really well, figure out which channels should you bring them to. Some people actually like buying offline. Some people will be more website-driven by pictures. Some are more chat-friendly. And you have to kind of do that segmentation to bring them to the right channels. And the second part, which Peter talked about retention and making those segments, you need to be able to find ways to engage with your customers more than just a few clicks on the website. If you don't have more details about that customer, what their pain points are, get them to have a conversation with you, or get them to do something on the website a little bit more than just scrolling through a couple of product pages. Using that data, all of that data is like a rich gold mine. I think the companies or the brands were able to leverage that data more fine tune on top of it, actually are able to grow at the end, because in the end it's about those nuances, and who gets it right will get the customer.
But can't we just live in the easy world where everyone buys from the website? Can we not live there? But you're so right though.
I think just e-commerce is evolving so quickly. Just I know we talked about sticking to the basics, but I think the basics are fundamentally changing so quickly. We're talking about things like AI, etc. I think what the customers want, I think we'll have to provide.
Yeah, well, exactly. Isn't the basic doing what the customer wants us to do? And it's, you know, any big retail store group who are seeing their, running a campaign to get people into stores. So the traffic on the store page goes up, find a store page goes up, and then the e-commerce team are annoyed because their overall conversion rate has gone down. They're missing the point, so you've got to know what you're doing with each of those customers. Joe, what would your take be on this? Do you think that's as important as what happens actually on the website?
Yeah, I guess, maybe going back to Nikhil's point, if the website is where the majority of your conversions happen, then obviously you want to optimize that in a way. And I think it's really interesting also to think about what the conversion is. It's not necessarily always going to be people checking out and making a payment, because that's not everyone's behavior and what they're there at the website for. So if we can understand why people are there and understand behaviors, like we know, for example, that 24% of people aren't actually ready to buy yet. So how can we help them become more ready to buy? For example, the company that do AG1, the green powder, we work with them, and something that they found was they realized that lots of people were coming to the site because there's lots of green powders out there, and then they'd leave again. They weren't sure why. And when they actually observed people and asked people their feedback on the site, what they found out is that there wasn't enough information about the health benefits and why their product was maybe better than others out there to encourage people to make a purchase. And also that people would go and compare maybe up to 4 different options on 4 different websites. So once they understood that behavior, they were then able to test different ideas and then optimize that, and they improved the detail on their product page. And I think this is maybe going back to something that Peter said at the start. And then they saw a 9% increase in conversions of actual checkout, because they were able to optimize that earlier part in the journey, which isn't necessarily even happening on the website at that point.
There is the whole thing about joining it up as well. If you're sending an email about this, make sure you're sending them to the right place, the content's there, and on it goes. Luke, anything you want to add to this one before I go to a question from the audience?
Yeah, so a quick perspective on this. I think a lot of it is down to, so very briefly on conversion rate, and I'm really desperately trying not to bring this back to analytics, but I think we have to think about conversion rate on a user level rather than a session level. So to use an example, people would rather take 1% of a million in terms of conversion than say 4% on 100,000, right? So if we are in a situation where we decide to focus on a blog and we drive substantially more traffic to the blog to build brand awareness and engagement and drive leads, that of course is going to compromise and wipe out your conversion rate. But over a longer period, that's probably going to drive an increase in revenue compared to previous years, right? So sometimes I guess it's going back to Peter's point of conversion rate in isolation isn't good enough to look at. But it does tie into basics of fundamentally connecting with the right customer. So it ties into Joe's point of giving the customer what they need. And of course, it's very easy to say that, but it's then difficult to execute that process. But it's a tricky one. But yes, I guess that's it really. That's all I can kind of add. Is it's not as straightforward as what I'd like to be able to say. It's just nice and simple.
I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make this webinar so wide-ranging, was because I think it's very easy to go, well, you need to do this and do an A/B test, and do this and do an A/B test, and focus on the checkout. And actually, the real scenario of improving your conversion rate is getting your business better. And thus it becomes complicated, and thus it does involve everything. But we had a good point made by one of the audience in relation to that whole, the marketing conversion rate interplay. It was from Daniela, who said, This is why negative keywords are an important factor, especially with the growth of broad matching, which is all about getting the right traffic to the website in the first place. And it's, for anyone who's wondering what on earth Danielle is talking about, that is a Google Ads world point. But I think sometimes we send traffic for the sake of sending traffic and don't necessarily look at the quality of that traffic, which of course affects things. But I don't want to dwell on that one. I wanted to come back to this question from Colleen, which is, other than browsing and purchase history, what customer data points are most useful in providing custom product recommendations? Obviously, Anna, I'm going to come to you first on this one because this is completely in your wheelhouse. But the rest of you, if you want to expand it out to being, how do we create the content that the customer wants? How do we help the customer with the data journey? I'm more than happy for you to expand it a little bit as we go work our way around the group. So Anna, everybody wants to do better personalization at the moment. It is a key part of the conversion rate optimization journey. Can be a very quick win. But how would you answer this one if you had a customer coming up to you and asking the question?
Yeah, coming back, I don't know who said that before, but we already mentioned it. I think it's all about like giving like the physical experience, right? The users are trying to get that personalized experience as if someone was like really like a shop assistant was helping them through the product, right? Whether that is like being on Instagram or guiding them through the sale as they go like on the website. So I feel personalization is just part of that. And it's all about like really understanding what the customer really wants and wants from you. It may be that for you that on your website is just having like really simple categories and so straightforward that they can complete the sale on their own, or that you implement like a chat box, a bot that helps you like answer a few questions for the customers so they find the right product when it comes to, I don't know, makeup or fashion, right? When we get a bit more complicated industries. So how do we get that data? That's, I guess, what's important, right? And how do we make those decisions? Because at the end of the day, data is just data. We need to translate that into insights so we can make decisions. So there's no technology that is just going to give you the key to everything. It's just they're going to help you make the strategic decisions for your business. So that's it. And again, like I have to talk a little bit about the search technology industry, right? Like there is so much that we can learn from customers, how they're searching for the products. Whether it's a problem based, you will learn the product that they have. Whether I'm missing information, as you were saying, then you can lead them to non-product pages as well as product pages. So it's all about understanding what they are here for, like what they are trying to accomplish. Is it purchasing something already? Is it learning more about the company? Is it learning more about the problem that they have, whether your website could help them out with that? So I guess it all comes back to like, do we understand the customer and what they need from us?
It's the ultimate marketing answer, isn't it? It depends on what the customer needs. It's what that customer needs, where the problems are in our business, and I think there's plenty of stuff you can do that's obvious within each different sector, in each different business, but it really does come down to what you're actually learning from the customers. Peter, you mentioned segmentation earlier, good old RFM. What's your take on this?
I mean, just that, Chloe, RFM for me, so it all does line that purchase data for me. This is where we're focusing all our efforts on, which product have they bought, finding out which products they haven't bought. If they haven't bought your hero product yet, make sure that you're using email marketing, SMS marketing, you're pushing your hero product. And when I say hero product, I'm not just talking about the one that makes you the most money. It's the one that actually keeps your customers there as well. That's the one, and then also filtering out the other side of that and seeing which products are most common in people that have churned. What was in their basket the last time it churned? How bad are the reviews on that product? And then actually sunsetting those products and getting rid of them as well. So, that's a one way to make sure that you're not recommending products that are actually really toxic for you. And then you can drive your product development off the back of that as well.
Which is why it has to be end to end. There's no point in marketing looking at this data and going, oh, it's really interesting. Everyone who buys that product never buys anything ever again. If the loops don't get done, they go, oh, it's because it's labeled wrong, or it's sized wrong, or the product copy's wrong, or the warehouse team hate packing it, so it's always a week late. I don't know. I'm going off on a really random one there. But yeah, we have to take that whole process if we want to try and fit it. Luke, you've been mumbling the whole way through this.
Sorry, it's absolutely my space product recommendations, but I wanted to kind of throw down a really practical example, having worked in pharmaceutical, where it's actually incredibly dangerous to suggest something that may or may not be suitable. So I worked for a company where hair loss was consistently a top seller, but if you're coming on looking at sun care because you're about to go on holiday, the last thing you want is to see something for alopecia and hair loss and all sorts of stuff that are zero concern to what you may be on the site for. So to tackle this particular problem, this always comes down to as much metadata and macro data on a product as possible. So the basics here are like color, size, brand, but on top of that, there's additional things like if you're selling, for example, lots of different foods like spices, it could be size, it could be price, it could be even margin, to be honest, is something you can potentially throw in there, availability, and lots of other information you can throw in. So I'm working with a retailer at the moment who sells a bunch of electronics, and it's massive, so many different departments. But there's things like screen size, there's things like weight, things like screen technology, and all of these things are used together as you start to browse through the site. So then what happens is personalization is able to give you a much more representative situation. One of the trickiest industries to get this right in is probably automotive with parts, because every car has a different part. There's no point recommending oil filters when only one oil filter in your collection of 10,000 is going to fit this vehicle, right? So I think having as much data as possible on a particular product can help your recommendation systems understand what are the things you're likely to see. If you bought Dior before, you might buy Dior again. If you bought fragrance, if you like red, if you like pink, if you like 100 ml as opposed to 50, all of these components add together to create really hyper-personalized recommendations that make a massive difference.
But like you say, it varies so much from business to business as well. This is definitely stuff we need to be testing. Joe, you obviously are testing endlessly. Terrible segue there. Sorry, everybody. But do you find that this piece of product customer segments is a super important thing to do within what you see brands and businesses doing? Is the segmentation does it always vary from business to business, or are there any things that are like that works for everybody?
Yeah, again, good question. I mean, there's probably basic things, on a checkout experience that are going to be the same for most buyers. We need to make that smooth. We need to make sure we have certain payment options. You don't want to make people have to log in when things like that are probably across the board. You want to solve those problems. But I think if we go to the question around segments, it is really key to know who your different segments of customers are, and to know them in a deeper way than just things like demographics and where they're likely to be based and do they live in an urban area. What do those things impact for them when it comes to making choices and decisions about your products, and what does it mean when they're experiencing any of the experiences you've built for them? If you take products for expectant mothers, for example, they're going to be in a different headspace. They might be, if they already have kids, they might be looking for something really quickly that they need delivered because they're in a panic. There's that context of the environment that you also want to understand, because that's going to impact what you're going to create for them that's going to support it. And I also think that understanding those different groups means that you might identify opportunities. So taking a step back and speaking to these groups in a more, I'm going to say the word holistic, but what's going on in their lives? How do they go about doing things? How do they go about doing tasks that you offer solutions for? And that's going to give you opportunities to be able to create something new that maybe you wouldn't necessarily have been able to get if you don't speak to them, and really understand what it is that you can do to provide that better experience.
Love that. Thank you, Joe. Nikhil, you exist more in the kind of the interactive assistance to get someone through to conversion rates, if we can simplify it in that way. a question from Colleen that we were looking at was all about those customer data points to help provide the custom product recommendations automatically. Is this the kind of thing that should be being fed through to the customer service, the live customer service side of things, be it a bot or be it a human being? Is that something you see working for businesses you work with?
Well, at the end of the day, it's about, the question I think refers to about things like what type of data points can you actually collect over a period of time. Well, Anna talked about search. I think search itself is a great way to get a lot of information about the customer, how they're thinking. In fact, if you break down search over multiple brands, we see that there are 7 different types of search behaviors. You could search for the product directly, you could search based on a concern, you could search for variants, and like that, there are 7 different types of searching behaviors. And based on how people are searching, you can actually figure out what type of information is actually missing on your website and kind of target based on that. Other type of engagements that we can get, again, the aim with this data is to build all the segmentation and do the marketing and do your retention. But what other type of data can you actually work with? What we've seen is that on the product page, when someone has spent maybe, let's say, 5 seconds or let's say 20 seconds on the product page and they're trying to read, you pop up at the right time with the right type of engagement and help them with the process. Maybe if it's a personal care brand, what we've noticed, like for example, with one brand that we work with in the UK, it's a shaving brand, and they would have 10 different type of shaving creams. I don't know, one is orange, one is red. That's how I think about it. But I'm sure there's different reasons why they made so many different varieties. Well, that's where the personalization comes in. You can take them through a personalized quiz or just have them searched in a much more easier way. Don't have to kind of, go around the block trying to figure out the customer. Make it super easy for them to reach out. Make it super easy for them to tell you what they think or what they're looking for and guide them to the answer. I think that's the simplest way of helping solve it. So I totally believe in the concept of search concierge service, and then using all the data, how they got to that, how they're following up as data points. And this is new. So this is new first-party generated data that is not just from analyzing behavior on the website. And there's so much you can do with it. I think there's a gold rush or a gold mine of the type of segmentations you can actually do, leveraging AI these days on how people are going through the conversation. Are they angry? Are they sad? What are the main concerns? What are the follow-up questions? I think that data is super, super valuable in this day and age.
I'm going to try and move us on a little bit, maybe, to a slightly different topic that's still highly related. Because Montserrat's asked a question which I think is kind of spot on for another thing we should be talking about. So I'll bring that up in a second. But I think it's fascinating that for me the theme across all of your answers so far is we've got to get the basics right. We've got to build trust. We've got to have the right copy. We've got to actually sell in all the ways that one should be selling well, by understanding your customers, creating the right content, the right marketing to bring them through to the right products. That we've got to can't silo the business anymore. This isn't the conversion rate team's problem or the website team's problem or the marketing team's problem. It's the whole business's problem, as per Peter's example with, well, that product's terrible. We need to improve the product or sunset it. And that at the heart of all of this is knowing the customers and working out how we can serve them better. So what Montserrat's asked is, have you noticed any change in customer trends or behavior as of late, maybe due to AI? For example, more recommendations or visits or clicks on the recommender of sites, that sort of thing. I'm going to throw into this, just to confuse things even more, a graph that none of you can actually see, but I'll explain it quickly, then I'll get rid of it so we get more of all of you on screen. Was shared by a brilliant email specialist, Hannah Spicer, the other day, which top reasons for abandoning baskets. Number 1, increased financial caution, 37%. And then you get delivery, and then you get I'm still browsing, and then you get returns policy. So I think it's possibly the first time I've ever seen increased financial caution quite so highly at the top of one of these charts. So there's obviously the economic side of all this going on too. Are you seeing customers behaving differently, and that making CRO more important, the whole piece of CRO more important, or changing our approaches to it? Anyone want to jump in on this one? Anyone got a perspective? Anyone
Yeah.
brave enough?
Yeah, I'm going to give some credit to my wife on
Okay.
this one, actually. She did a recent talk talking about Adidas versus Nike and their two approaches to such a thing, a market which has less disposable income. So very quickly, Adidas was a brand that was talking about, and I may have got this the wrong way around, it was Nike or Adidas, but Adidas was talking about the benefits of their brand new trainers and how great they are and how incredible they are and why you should go out and buy them. Nike effectively wrote a piece of content was talking about the longevity and how to actually look after your trainers and how to be in a situation where you're more conscious of what you've got, how to maintain them, how to make them last longer. And that effectively builds empathy and trust and awareness that, you know, the market is changing and people don't necessarily go in and buy trainers the same way that they used to. And I think this then falls into a more personal touch and understanding what's happening. So that then ties into things like site search and people looking for cheap flights more frequently, cheap hotels in certain areas, right? So it's been able to respond and quickly adapt to a market where disposable income is increased or decreased, and been that volatile. And that's where AI kind of comes in to understand that. Big old data sets, compressing that, pulling out trends and seeing what's happening. But that would be my contribution to that.
There's an example I often use, a brand called Cheeky Wipes, who create reusable baby wipe packages that up until the consumer spending issues hit a couple of years ago, it was all about how kind it is to your hand and how there was a slight bit about the sustainability, but mainly about the fact this is kinder to your hand if you're a mum who's in these all the time than the disposable ones. Now they're all about the value stack. You'll spend X £100 on this over the next 3 years after your baby's born. But if you buy this for just 40 quid or whatever it is, you're set for the next 3 years. And it's that twist of messaging that yeah, I think is such an important thing to get right. And yes, everybody, might mean you need to rewrite large quantities of your site. Nikhil, you wanted to jump in on this one too. So are you seeing consumer behavior changing the way brands are needing to deal with all of this?
Well, I think if you look at how AI has really kind of changed human behavior, I think the number one area of, that has been hit in our day to day is our attention spans and the way that we expect things to just happen for us now. I mean, how many of us actually, spend as much time as we did before writing our own copy or anything around us, the creative ideas? So I feel like we just want things to happen quickly, and the rise of short form content, as we see, is just another factor of that. In general, if you look at the rising trend over the last couple of years, not just AI, I think AI has helped accelerate it at the right time, but it's just about shorter attention spans. And I think that's how we think about it. If we're on this customer buying journey, they don't want to read a large email. They want to keep things as quick and as short as possible. If you look at the rising trends of how LinkedIn's algorithm is working these days, shorter posts are actually performing better than longer posts, or shorter sentences rather than longer paragraphs. And it's just about the attention span. Again, we talked about the copy, keeping everything as quick and as short as possible. Can you jump in at the right time? Can you give them that search at the right time? So I think that's the general trend in the direction in which things are going. I believe the brands that are able to embrace it, the brands which are doing marketing, keeping that short attention span in mind, are doing great. And that means they have taken up viral going marketing campaigns like TikTok, etc. They're just targeting the market that's ready to buy online. And we have to understand that market, because think about it, it's online commerce. All the people who are online are just subjected to so much content left, right, and center. Their attention spans have definitely gone down. So I believe we should be leveraging AI in ways, and I think the brand should be as well, knowing that if we can solve for the short attention spans, we're more likely to make a purchase. Joe talked about educating the customer. If the education can be done as quickly as possible, you will have a better chance of winning, rather than waiting for your third email campaign to say that this is why this is going to work for you.
Yeah, I think there's that reframing things, as Luke was talking about. Then there's that big picture adoption of the technology to help us automatically understand the customer better. And I think I feel like, well, as I said at the beginning, I feel like we're suddenly going, oh, conversion rates. Yeah, we probably should put some effort into that. And that's one of the reactions to the consumers and the economic changes we've had. We've got about 5 more minutes to discuss this particular topic, which probably means I can fit in the other 3 of you. But which of you's got a burning desire to talk on this one before I pick between you? Joe, you look like you're about to jump in.
I've got some strong opinions on this. And
oh, awesome! We love a strong opinion.
I think all of these things, right? The AI trend, cost of living. There's a big trend towards authenticity. There's so much going on, and of course it impacts how our customers are experiencing what we're creating for them, how they're going to buy things. Of course it impacts that. And I've underlined this on my notepad. I think fundamentally, if you're going to change anything, if you're thinking about bringing AI into your products, if you're thinking about rewriting the way that your copy is because you want to be more empathetic, which, yes, great. Absolutely. You've got to test it first. You've got to test it with users. You've got to test it with customers before you launch anything. If you're thinking about bringing AI into your products, what is the user need? What is it going to solve? What is it going to improve? That is a big project. That is going to take a lot of time. That is going to take a lot of budget. Make sure that it's actually doing something useful. The same for copy, the same for releasing new products or coming up with new ideas. Test it with users first. Make sure that you're doing the right thing and you're meeting a need. That's strong opinion said.
No, but I think it's a very necessary strong opinion, because I think it's really easy to come on, to go to conferences or to come onto webinars like this and go, oh, brilliant, I need to do that, I need to do that, I need to do that. Guys, we're not giving you a to-do list, we're giving you a testing list. And
Yes.
ideas to take away, to evaluate, to then decide which ones you're going to test. Not just install and hope for the best, but test. Anna, you were nodding along to a lot of that.
Yeah.
So.
I want to say something as well, because I feel we talk about AI a lot these days, but AI has been there for, I don't want to say forever, but for a really long time. Like my company, we were working with AI before it was cool. Like we were not promoting ourselves as, like, oh, it's AI based, but it's an algorithm. A lot will change. A lot has changed in the past years. So yes, it's all about adapting and everything. But also, I would say, like, let's not worry that much. Like, if you got the data, cool. It's like it's good and we need it. It's also about how we react to it. So Luke was saying about product recommendations, like how to optimizing all those tires, all those car things, right? Like it's how do we feed the data? How do we feed the algorithm to do what we want it to do? And I think that has been important in the past, that will be important in present, and it will be important in the future. And things will change along the way. But it's about how we react to those changes, I think. And testing has a lot to do with that. Looking at the data has a lot to do with that. But yeah, I wouldn't be afraid that we are gonna, our roles will not be important anymore or anything like that, because I think it will be more important than ever to actually bring like the human perspective into this and being able to, again, like make the decisions. Whatever those decisions are, I don't know, and nobody knows. Like we could be pretending that we do know, but in reality we do not. But it's about how we use the data that those tools provide in like on our advantage.
Love that. Thank you, Anna. Peter, going to come to you for your perspective on this. So you're welcome to go back to the original question from Montserrat about how consumer behavior shifts are affecting CVO or CRO, or you can build on the AI point. I don't mind.
I'll go back to sort of where we started with this. I agree with Nikhil in terms of our attention spans suck right now. And we're not willing to do the research anymore. And the reason probably is you've got ChatGPT, you can go and do your research on pretty quickly. We spoiled. Everything's getting easier for us. Doing a bit of hard work to find out what products you want to buy is just not something that people are willing to do anymore. They want it spoon-fed. And then you couple that with the fact that we've got just this rising trend in short-form videos with TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. All of these things is just quick dopamine hits. which means for me, we're seeing a bigger rise in people actually selling with video on their websites as well now. So we thought it was a trend probably I would say about 4 or 5 years ago. We started introducing videos and shoppable videos within stores. Wasn't really getting used. But what we're finding now is when we introduce it and we test it now, it's definitely something that people, it's picking up conversion rates, and people are starting to go through that process a lot quicker because a video can quickly show them what the benefits of that product is, instead of them having to read and everything and do the research themselves on that product page.
Yeah, it's. I actually had a sales call yesterday from someone who wants me to do an influencer campaign with them, who was talking to me because ChatGPT told her she should. So thank you, ChatGPT. The commission's in the post, not. But yeah, I think if it's reached the point where people are hiring e-commerce influencers, business influencers via ChatGPT or trying to, then we've got to pay attention to that. Right. Marvelous team. Okay, audience, we've run out of time for your questions, but as you've seen, the panelists are active in chat. So if you've still got a question, please do feel free to ask it, and they may well answer while someone else is answering verbally. Verbal answers, though, I would love to know, right? We've covered quite a lot, quite a variety of stuff. I'd love to know what each of the 5 of yours key takeaway would be for the audience. You are welcome to chuck in a curveball, something we haven't managed to have time to mention. You can double down on something we've already talked about. I'd just love to know what you think the audience should be taking away from this. You've got only about 30 to 60 seconds to do it. So we will make our way around the room. Nikhil, I'll come to you first, and then we'll go around in a lovely clockwise direction.
Sure, I'll keep it pretty short. I think we talked about trust, we talked about keeping it simple, and we talked about authenticity. I believe if a brand can be able to build that kind of conviction with the customer, they're going to win.
Love it. That was properly short. So short I wasn't unmuted. Peter, your key takeaway, please.
Test some more. I'm not just meaning A/B test, and in particular, if you're a new brand, A/B testing is not even going to show you what you need to know. You need to actually go and talk to your customers. You need to go and figure out, use tools like user testing, go and figure out what your customers are saying, how they're experiencing your website. And if you do change something on the store, make sure that you're looking at the analytics, make sure that you're using, video recordings, anything like that, to try and see how that's impacted your store. Don't just go and do a big redesign and change everything, because you're not going to know what's actually worked and what hasn't worked.
Yeah,
totally spot on. Anna.
So similar, but I will just use a different word. Data for me. Just gather your own data, because you can learn so many things from these webinars and information online, everything, but it will not be specific for your business. So any internal actual data that you can gather from your business, and yes, it could be GA4, but not only that, there are so many technologies that give you and feed you with data, and how you can turn that into insights and then make decisions from those. That's what's really important to me. We have customers really being able to spot new trends or prioritize the catalog accordingly to customer needs. So all of that comes from their own data. So don't rely on third-party data only.
Yeah, you need the data to power everything, but you also need to actually pay attention to the data to work out where to put your effort, because if you try and do everything, you're not going to get any of it done. Luke, please.
Yeah, a bit of a curveball. I think delight your customers in a way that's quite original. So one example I've seen that's performed really well is free delivery is great. Everyone loves it. But how about giving your customers £1 or €1 or $1 for delivery? So effectively you're paying them. It's a nice, sweet little thing. Or little things where you're saying free delivery at $50 or €50, but actually it activates at 48. Just small things like this where it's kind of Easter egg discounts as opposed to just in your face 10, 20% off, half price, 3 for 2. Be original, be creative, and they can be really cheap ways to delight a customer that everybody's kind of going to love within reason. But yeah, just think about ways to be original, delight them just as if they were face to face. An extra flower if you're buying a bouquet, a free plastic bag even though you should have paid for it, all of that sort of good stuff. Yeah.
Nice, love it. A little bit of surprise and delight goes a long way. Joe, your final thought for us, please.
Yeah, I mean, Peter stole mine, really. So I might just
It's worth
combine that.
reiterating.
Well, to test everything. I might combine it with something that Luke mentioned with an example about delighting and thinking of opportunity. Test things, understand what your customers are doing, what they need, and that's going to identify opportunities. For example, Costa Coffee took advantage of the Euros in 2021 and put on a gamified win prizes during the Euros for football fans, and they ended up getting 80,000 more members downloading the app who were football fans from that. So I think it's a good example of something that was delighting. It was a different experience. It was fun. And they did that by combining understanding events and understanding their customers. So test.
test, and have a goal as well. Because that Costa example, all about getting app downloads. That's what they wanted, because then they're in your phone and they've got you for longer. So yeah, the goals you have to have a goal to test. But anyway, I'm about to waffle on for about 15 minutes on that one, but I won't. Panelists, thank you all for being absolutely awesome. Audience, thank you for your questions and your comments. Loads of great comments coming in on the in the chat in this one. So thank you all for being part of that. Next time, I am going to wrap up now, I promise everybody. Next time, we're doing Black Friday, because it'll be September, which means we definitely need to be talking about Black Friday. And we'll be talking about Black Friday and profit. Not Black Friday and sales at any cost, but Black Friday and profit. And you can sign up for that on the same website as this one. So that's web8.ecommerceexplored.com. And I hope to see you all there for the Black Friday session. Thanks, and I love it. We've got don't discount coming in there from Peter in the chat. Totally agree. More on that in September, though. Thanks, everybody. Have a lovely rest of your Wednesday. Bye.